I wish more and more founders would think about it in a more focused approach, right? Where you try to kind of scale across one vertical, build across one vertical, create value, show value, and then use that to kind of raise more, scale more, and grow faster.
I would say that 95% of early stage startups tend to focus completely on the problem they're having versus what the market sees as the problem.
What is something that you wish founders knew? So over the last year or two, when you had a meeting with a founder or you were working with a portfolio company, what's something that you thought, you've thought a couple times, gosh, I really wish founders knew blank.
Yeah, maybe I can take a first part of it. I think I work a lot with student founders, right out of university. We've worked with founders as young as 17, 18, kind of thing. I think young founders tend to the thing that I miss is they want to grasp every opportunity that comes their way. If they have 10 different verticals they can target all together, they will go for it, right? And I wish more and more founders would think about it in a more focused approach, right? Where you try to kind of scale across one vertical, build across one vertical, create value, show value, and then use that to kind of raise more, scale more, and grow faster, right? So I think focus is what I tend to see, especially in younger founders. It tends to be missing, and that's what we try to bring to them, and work with them to kind of find out the niche or the focus that they feel comfortable in and can really scale in with their product.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, especially for first-time founders, I think it's being able to shift between the vision and how important the vision is through to kind of the nuts and bolts of the business. And it scales up pretty rapidly, I think. Initially it's very much about the vision, and you always do need to articulate that. But then, for early stage, getting the commercial value, proving the business case, and getting those proof points such that you can prove that there is a business there. I think people underestimate just the amount of work and particularly for engineers, going out and speaking to customers, right? You just can't have enough customer calls and get as much market information as you can. And I think that's probably the biggest slipping point across the first few rounds.
Do you think it's about the initial engagement with customers, or is it more about kind of attitude and approach?
Um, well, I'd be interested in your opinion on this. I mean, we have this, we focus exclusively on deep tech, and I think sometimes, myself being a PhD student and an engineer, it was quite hard to get out of the lab and just go out and speak to people, right? Particularly when the product isn't done, and going and talking to people when you think it's only partially finished. But quite often at the very early stage, that's what you need to do.
Yeah, I think for me to kind of respond to that, for me it's more along the lines of focusing on a particular use case, right? I mean, founders tend to see, all right, this, I mean, every product has at least 10, 15 use cases or verticals in a particular market that they can target. At least founders tend to find, oh, I have this product and I can sell it to this guy, this guy, this guy, and that's well and good. But each persona, each use case has a different go-to-market approach and a different pricing, and it's you spread yourself too thin trying to build for all different use cases. Rather, that's where I see a lack of focus. Right? They come, at least they tend to come from a service kind of thing, right? If the customer asks, I'll build for them, but that's fine. But you got to also kind of balance out that, is this my focus? Is this my core focus? Right? Saying no to the wrong kinds of revenue so that you can show repeatability and retention and revenue in one particular use case. Show your ability to execute in that one vertical, and then kind of raise along those lines and scale that vertical before you move on to other verticals. So that's kind of how I think of it.
Well, how do you feel about this, Jeffrey? Because I'm curious, Jeffrey and Daniel. especially on deep tech and disruptive technologies, it's pretty hard to talk to your customers years before you've built anything that might work for them. How do you kind of recommend folks in your industries do that? What's the right way of doing that and the wrong way of doing that? I'm very curious.
Well, I think to start, there's you're always going into every startup business with a hypothesis, and you have an idea of what you're looking to accomplish. And I think you can get stuck into the build side of things, which will just burn time and not get you into market. So I think you have to really focus on what that MVP looks like, what's going to get you into a test phase. And a lot of the time, startups will just build. They won't have any clients in mind. They won't have a vertical. They'll have a vertical probably in the back of their mind that they're going after, but they just want to build because they think they're solving this major problem. And I think to iterate what the guys have shared is that this is where focus comes in, and this is where aligning with a customer that has this problem and working with that customer and tying your problem into what they're trying to solve. Somebody out there is trying to solve your problem, but you have to really get behind the nuts and bolts of it. I would say that 95% of early stage startups tend to focus completely on the problem they're having versus what the market sees as the problem. And then when they start to push it out, it causes longer delays or iterations because they haven't aligned properly to what the real market problem is. So I think if that allows for a focus, one thing I would suggest, or two maybe, for founders is that they should really deep dive and learn and find a customer that wants to support their problem. They can get in there and work with them. That always is going to be a good way into the market. And then the second thing is, of course, you need to validate this again, which is going out and finding sales and keeping that focus strong. And I think some of the other things that should be side learnings are diving into financials and understanding cap tables, understanding shareholders agreements, understanding your business modeling and how this is all going to work forward. And I know that sounds like a lot, but really building that MVP, finding a couple of people that understand what you're trying to solve, get them in behind what you're doing, and then move forward.